Hello, folks. Thank you for taking part in our session today. We're excited to be here speaking to you about all things documents and workflows in Salesforce. My name is Nick Adams, and I work here at PDFTron on the marketing team. I'll be the one communicating with you in the chat bar on the right side of your screen. Andre, who is our speaker today, he'll be here to answer as many questions as he can throughout the session, and we'll also have a designated Q&A period at the end, so please submit your questions in the questions tab. Don't worry if your question isn't answered right now. We'll be following up with you after the session as well. And for joining today, you're automatically entered into a draw for one of we'll be following up with the winners post-webinar for that too. So on with the show. Today, our speaker is Andre Safonov. Andre is the head of our product and integrations here at PDFTron. You may recognize him from our YouTube channel or various other speaking gigs with PDF Association or others. With more of a decade of experience in the tech industry as an engineer, product manager, and general code ninja, Andre works closely with all companies from startups to Fortune 500s to produce technical products that add business value. Andre, thanks for being with us here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick. All right, hi everyone. Really excited to have you here and really excited to present and speak to you about our Salesforce solution. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and share out the screen. We prepared some of the slides just to kind of give you a little bit of an intro of what's happening. All right, so PDFTron Salesforce, native document viewing, generating, collaborating, signing, and editing capabilities. Let's go ahead and take a look what we mean by that. So really the way we're going to break down the webinar today is we're going to concentrate on kind of what the problems it's trying to solve, kind of what the solution does, and then kind of explain to you the difference between low code or high code offerings that we have on here on the PDFTron side. Kind of dive in a little bit about how it works. And we're actually going to do a hands-on demo. I'm going to show you how easy it is to deploy a PDFTron SDK onto the Salesforce org. We're going to go ahead and use a page editor to place it whatever kind we need. And we actually listened to your feedback. So we kind of went through multiple iterations of the solution, and I heard from developers, Salesforce administrators about, kind of their problems, their gaps, and we made the whole process much, much easier for you to kind of get started. And then we're going to have a Q&A period where I'm going to go ahead and kind of read through some of the chats, read through some of the questions, and be able to answer them. All right, so let's just kind of jump in. So what it solves, right? So we're talking about Salesforce platform. And Salesforce platform is a great platform where, it's used by multiple verticals, right? So nowadays we're hearing that it's not just a customer relationship manager, like it's not just for sales. It's actually, for education, it's in the government workflows, it's in legal workflows and everything. It's just it provides, Salesforce just has so many different kind of flavors of its offering that almost every single use case can be covered and streamlined using Salesforce offering. However, when it comes to documents, there's just some gaps, right? So Salesforce is really good at kind of storing the documents, kind of pulling the necessary data, organizing the data by account, case, kind of whatever object we're talking about. But it comes with interacting documents, that's where the solution kind of a little bit lacks, right? Because like if we're using the built-in Salesforce viewer, which can render almost like thumbnails or images of kind of the document and the pages we're trying to look at, we're not able to search on it. We're not able to select text on it. So it kind of becomes problematic to complete some of more complex cases where we have to collaborate on the documents. We have to kind of review, approve them, maybe edit them, maybe sign them, kind of get to the next flow. And then we start kind of the way we're trying to search for it, we start searching kind of on AppExchange and trying to see if there are solutions. And there are solutions, but they're more of like one-off, solving a very particular problem. Most often requires very kind of tricky setup. And then you have to kind of cobble a whole bunch of different solutions in order to make them work. However, with PDFTron SDK, what we're trying to do, we're trying to optimize the kind of the whole document management flow. So regardless kind of what's your use case or what you're trying to do, we have the solution for you. So you can kind of plug and play one kind of manage or unmanaged package, and I'm going to go into detail on that, into any screen on the Salesforce. and just kind of customize specifically for your workflow. And in return, that's going to improve your productivity. Your users are going to be happy. And like for me, when I'm talking to customers and they're kind of coming in with their initial requirements, I ask them like, well, how much does it take like an average person right now to complete kind of the document workflow? And then they kind of give me some kind of estimate. Oh, it takes 5 to 10 minutes. It takes an hour, and then after we implement and integrate PDFTron, I ask them again, after they ran it with their users for about 3 to 6 months, and then, kind of hearing that they were able to cut down in the processing time by 50%. And then, the users are more happy, they're more engaged into kind of the work, they're able to complete more. And yeah, there's just kind of more time left in the day, especially as we're still kind of working from home, and we've got to balance our work life a little bit better. This can really help. So, what it does. So when kind of talking about PDFTron is think of it as like a Swiss Army knife or a toolkit or a software development kit, the proper term for it, that able to kind of cover off different functionalities, right? So as I said, kind of the default Salesforce viewing that comes out of the box is very limiting in a way where we can just preview the file, but we can't search it. So we can search inside of the document, and we can kind of interact with it or select any text on it, where PDFTron can kind of offer viewing out of the box for kind of PDF, MS Office, images, videos, audios. I know it's pretty crazy. We did hear about the use cases where there was a design marketing agency kind of storing a whole bunch of work, kind of their videos and marketing materials on the kind of the Salesforce platform. And as such, we were able to grab our web viewer video and integrate to allow kind of preview of the videos and collaboration on the videos. But I'm going to show you more once we get to the hands-on portion. And then after that, so, kind of viewing, we can open the files anywhere from, kind of Salesforce. We can open files that are stored maybe on S3 bucket if you ran into the Salesforce limit. So Salesforce has a limit on the one single file size that you can store of 25 megabytes. So then, as such, sometimes if the users have really large documents, and maybe you tried optimizing them already, and that's just, the file size that are 100 megabytes in size. So sometimes users actually put them on S3 or Azure or Google Cloud or store on on-prem. For PDFTron, it doesn't really matter. They can actually just, we can open it kind of from any file storage. And really the unique value here, a lot of solutions on the AppExchange, they act as a connector. So what I mean by that is that, sure, there's a listing on the AppExchange, you can kind of bring it in, but most often it will do a call out to another third-party server or a service, and then that's where we'll do some kind of operation and then kind of bring you back the document back into the Salesforce. Where with the PDFTron, we're a Salesforce partner, and we partnered up with them to rework our solution in such a way where we leverage some of the native components and APIs from the Salesforce together with the PDFTron SDK that can run completely on the Salesforce platform. And what that means for you is that your files are all kind of stored and never leave Salesforce platform. So, we can open the file or records directly from the Salesforce, kind of interact with them, preview all of the rendering kind of happening within Salesforce, within the browser, within kind of client side. We can edit the files in memory securely, and then we can kind of store them back to the Salesforce. And in case where the files are stored on AWS S3 or kind of Azure or whatever, we can kind of work with the file in memory on the Salesforce platform again. And when the time comes, you can have a save button that kind of pushes off the document and either creates a new version on your storage platform, or we just create, just update the existing file. So kind of the next use case is around annotations, right? So annotation one can cover a lot of different use cases, right? So it could be a simple, like, I'm reading this document, I want to make and highlight some of the notes for myself, or I want to work with someone to edit this specific document or maybe identify anything missing from, could be applications, it could be, cover letters, resumes, anything. So maybe want to kind of highlight the skills of, that candidate that we're about to interview. Or, annotation could mean even some of the workflows like signing, and I'm going to talk about it in a second. The next one is form filling, like government, insurance, really heavily relied. They have maybe an existing set of kind of forms that the user has to fill. And a lot of the times, the way the forms are being handled right now is that, we have a form, original form, and then we kind of send it out to multiple, and then it could be via email, and then we kind of get it back, a filled version of each kind of PDF form. And then, our file storage costs are increasing because we're storing like a filled copy every single time. So there's a, maybe our original form was like 1 megabyte in size. After we send it out to thousands of customers, now it's, 1,000 megabytes. So it's just really kind of grown, right? Where what we can do with PDFTron is that we can kind of have a single truth original PDF form. We can kind of preview it to multiple users. And as they kind of fill it out, we can actually pre-pop some information to make the form filling experience a little bit more engaging for them, a little bit easier. Like if we already have their name, their address, maybe we can kind of pre-fill it ahead of the time. And then if it's updated, they can kind of go ahead and tweak it. And then after that, we can grab the information that they have filled out. And instead of kind of merging back into PDF, which we can do as well, we can actually just save it as a record entry. And then you can query it later, on account, case, whatever, pre-fill some of the fields on the Salesforce, so back into the system. So there's kind of full two-way communication. So instead of kind of saving a new copy of a PDF form with a field and fields, you can kind of extract them separately in a string and then kind of store them in a record and map them out to the Salesforce fields. And then signing, so for signing, we power a number of different solutions out there, like DocuSign, Sign Easy, and others. And for the signing portion of it, you can actually implement your own kind of custom workflow for the signing. And the best part about it, that the signing can happen completely within Salesforce platform, where I believe in the case of DocuSign, again, it's a bit of a connector. So it kind of kicks you out to a third-party server, and then it brings you back into the Salesforce platform, where if you want to implement your own custom workflow, so maybe a contract being sent out in real estate, or you're trying to close a deal, you can actually kind of designate the fields or the areas where the user needs to sign if there's multiple users. And even if you're kind of listening in from Europe right now, or, we can actually combine a digital certificate. So, in North America, I believe in most states and jurisdictions, like just placing an e-signature on a PDF document is legally binding enough and represents a true signature, wherein we're operating globally for our European customers, Brazil, in South America, that's not enough. And each citizen actually they can go to the post office or kind of DMV comparison, so where you renew your driver license and receive a kind of digital certificate representing you, so digital ID. So we can grab that digital ID and combine it together with a PDF, kind of making it a completely legally binding signature in Europe and South America, and as well as North America. And then there's a couple other use cases, like page manipulation. We can assemble documents. We can assemble documents from kind of multiple formats, so you don't need to pre-convert anything ahead of the time. You can literally kind of drag and drop images. You can drag and drop them from your desktop, Office documents, PDFs into one document. And you can rearrange pages with it, kind of delete some of the pages, rotate them out. And again, all the editing happens in memory. All the conversion happens in memory of the browser. So you're just kind of doing it again within Salesforce platform. It never leaves your platform. And as soon as you assemble that document and you're kind of happy with the results of it, you can kind of save that updated document. You can also kind of set up multiple viewers. So some of the use cases that I've seen where people set up 2 viewers side by side, and one is going to be kind of our master document where we're kind of assembling it, and then kind of a new kind of just temporary document where we pop it up, preview it. Is this the right document? Maybe I want to just grab a couple of the pages, and we have implemented where you can kind of drag and drop pages across viewers. And something new that we just released as well, you can check out the blog on pdftron.com about our template generation solution on Salesforce. But really, we kind of make the document creation process much easier. So a lot of the times it's, it could be communications, it could be letters, it could be contracts that we need to send out. And maybe, kind of the structure of it or the skeleton is going to remain the same, but some of the fields like name, addresses, maybe there's an optional paragraph. We can actually just grab any existing templates that you have, and the users can create templates in kind of docx format. They can go in Google Docs, they can go into Microsoft Office, and they can just type it up literally with like squiggly brackets, kind of identifying any replacement or placeholder values on the document, and then they can upload to the Salesforce, or you can build your own custom app, doesn't matter. So you can upload to the Salesforce, and then you can kind of map it. You're like, I want the first name, last name, address come from this account, and you can kind of associate kind of their placeholder values with kind of the account fields directly on the Salesforce. You have a nice UI to do this. It's a drop down for each field, how you want to do the mapping. And then you can kind of generate kind of multiple templates or hit a button, and then it will just kind of, okay, I will generate communication letter, to this account, and I will send it out. And we can kind of take care of that kind of template generation, mail merge, stuff like that. You can kind of customize that solution for you. And the last but not least, and this is just kind of tip of the iceberg in terms of what PDFTron can offer. There's a lot more than we put in the slide, but this is kind of more common use cases for the Salesforce platform. Another one is being true redaction. So true redaction is especially kind of, again, when we're dealing with the sensitive information, it could be in the legal space, governance space, whenever there's a kind of, public request coming in to get access to some of the files, and there's some sensitive information that can be released to the public, you can actually kind of mark up the document, or you can search for specific patterns ahead of the time as well. It could be phone numbers, it could be addresses, it could be emails, could be names, whatever kind of personally identifiable or protected health information as well, maybe kind of patient's name, their age, ethnicity, and so on. And after that, you can kind of say, okay, this is the information that I want to remove from the document. You can run it through multiple kind of review and approval processes as well. And then after that, you can hit apply redactions. And what it will do is that it will grab the coordinates of kind of the box that you kind of decided that you want to remove, and all of the text, all of the images underneath will be removed. And a new kind of version or copy of the document is created that's been kind of fully redacted. So now if you send it out, you release it to the public, they can't reverse engineer and get that underlying document data, because it's been completely blown away. And again, everything kind of happened client side in the browser. And then after that as well, the document still remains searchable. So we don't convert it to an image and kind of blank out the pixels. We actually kind of go in at the document at the low level and kind of check intersection of any elements within a text image's path, and we kind of blow it away. So the document is still searchable and the text is still selectable. However, the text that you wanted to remove or the images you wanted to remove are gone. Okay, so let's go through kind of low code and high code. I see a lot of questions coming in. This is great. I'm going to go ahead and kind of take a quick break kind of after the slides. We only have a few slides to go. And before jumping to the hands-on section, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions. The questions coming in are really good. So low code or high code. So a lot of the time, kind of if you're looking at the PDFTron SDK offering, it sounds like software development kit, and you're like, oh man, I don't really have any developers, to kind of implement that or customize that. Sounds like they need to know JavaScript. So we actually kind of developed two, flavors of the solution. So we have kind of a low code, or I would say no code almost, that can be easily grabbed by your Salesforce administrators, and it comes powered by PDFTron SDK. and you can just kind of grab a pre-built component that actually allows you to do some of the use cases that I talked about, you know, on the previous slides, and you can just plug it and play it. Now, you can't really customize it to the same point that you can do with PDFTron SDK, but at least it kind of can get you there. So think of it as a kind of full Adobe Reader Pro almost directly in the Salesforce platform. And you can just kind of place it on any single page within Salesforce as well. So this is just kind of a quick solution for someone if you just want to pull it in for your organizations without writing any code. But you know, on the PDFTron SDK side, you kind of unlock full potential of customizability, kind of implementing some of the user roles and permissions, adding custom buttons that you can kind of trigger custom workflows as well, and it kind of provides you a more hands-on approach to the code. And again, don't be overwhelmed. I'm going to show you how easy it is to get started with the PDFTron SDK solution. I don't think App Exchange needs a walkthrough. It's pretty simple. Just go ahead, kind of say get it now. We offer a great trial actually, where you can kind of try it out for your organization as well. But on PDFTron SDK side, I will show you kind of how easy it is. It just takes me a few clicks to actually deploy to my org. And then I will show you kind of how to customize it. Okay, so before we jump into kind of see how it works and seeing it in action, just want to take a moment to address some of the questions that have been coming in. And I'm going to start from the top of the chat, then go to questions and so on. So, okay, so can we view an InDesign file? Yes, we just added an image module that actually extend PDFTron image support to 60+ image formats, and InDesign is actually one of them. We also added DICOM image format, which is heavily used in kind of medical space. That's how all of the X-rays that you do are stored in it. So, you know, if you need support for those files as well, we can enable that as well. Okay, so can we preview an auto-populate file before we send it out for signature? Absolutely. Again, with the PDFTron SDK, you can kind of customize it. So you can say, like, this is the areas that I want to sign, maybe replace some of the placeholder fields, and, you know, maybe you can kind of move it in like a case type setup. You can kind of move it to the next step, kind of preview before signing, and then you can kind of see it, how it's going to look like for the person that could be signing, and then you can kind of do the next step for actually sending it out. So that's a great question. So what are the dependencies on the client machine to perform HTML, PDF, Word image conversion? So again, great question. So PDFTron Solution runs inside Salesforce. Salesforce, as we know, runs inside of a browser. Specifically from the client machine, they just need to have a browser and just, you know, a way to access Salesforce platform. So just an internet connection. You don't need any kind of MS Office instances. You don't need kind of any plugins. There's none of that. It kind of works seamlessly within Salesforce platform. It's just a matter of just opening a different screen. HTML is just natively supported by the browser. PDF and Word, we have our own proprietary rendering engine that kind of does the conversion and the rendering directly inside of the browser. So again, no dependencies are needed, and that's kind of our biggest differentiator as well, that the fact we can do kind of all of those conversion and rendering directly inside the browser without any dependencies. And then for the images, again, we have kind of out-of-the-box support for some of the image formats, and we can extend out support for, you know, things like InDesign and DICOM, and we're just figuring out the best way to package that solution, and it's possibly will be client-side as well. Okay, so in this event, we'll see how to save annotations on the programming side. Yeah, why not? We can do that as well, and I will kind of show you kind of what's happening underneath. So please go ahead and remind me if, you know, I forget about it, and we can definitely do so. Can you search across multiple documents in SF record? So that's a great question. So PDFTron has a text extraction capability, and the way the text is actually stored inside of a PDF document is kind of tricky. So for example, if we're kind of looking at the document and we have a sentence on top of it. That sentence can actually be broken out into several words that can be stored in like whichever chaotic order. And it's kind of stored in a logical order. And some of the text extraction on the market today, what they do is they just kind of read that order. And then sometimes when you go to select the PDF file, it returns you gibberish. That's because it's trying to return you the logical order of how things are stored. So PDFTron does kind of, we perfected our text extraction machine learning algorithm where we kind of do multiple passes on the document. So we kind of go ahead and kind of read all of the document text elements on it. And then we rebuild them based on their coordinate positions. And then we aggregate them into paragraphs and sentences, something that does make sense. And then we provide a reading order text extraction. So now using the text extraction, we can extract the text from, docx, PDF. If it's an image-based PDF, we can kind of OCR it and then extract the text out of it. And then we can kind of store it in kind of whatever you use for indexing of the documents, right? So it could be Elasticsearch, it could be Algolia, it could be, a number of other kind of providers that offer kind of that indexing and searching across multiple documents. And I actually have a GitHub example kind of where I implemented a very simple React app and I hooked it up together with Algolia and PDFTron SDK for text extraction where I would search across multiple documents. Now for Salesforce, we got to think about how, what kind of indexing or text searching solutions are there that can be plugged in together with PDFTron SDK for the text extraction purposes. So I'm sure, Kumar, you can reach out to me directly and we can kind of brainstorm together. And maybe we can put together some kind of sample or POC and kind of evaluate what's out there for Salesforce. And yeah, so is there a way not to print the PDF and leave it read-only? Yeah, so again, using PDFTron SDK, we can customize any of the functionality that comes in WebViewer. So we can kind of hide certain functionality like printing. We can remove the download options. We can even disable text selection too for some users or some pool of users that we want to kind of, secure the document away. We can also place watermarks on it too to prevent screenshotting of that document as well. So yeah. So do you support page reading events? So I'm guessing as the user kind of is reading them and they scroll through the page, maybe they go to the next page and you want to kind of be able to capture events and drive maybe your analytics processes. Yeah, so that's possible as well. So WebViewer itself doesn't collect any analytics on PDFTron behalf. So we're not kind of sending us back anything. So there's no kind of call back home, but we do expose events that could be kind of hooked in for you and you can kind of listen on, and you can kind of pick and choose a la carte, like which events you want to listen to. Is it the page change event? Is it Zoom change event? And then kind of go from there. So, and then you can kind of set up and listen for what's important to you and catch those events. And yes, can I read a PDF from an external server accessible with the token? That's possible. You can kind of pass in any custom headers and it can include that auth token. So very widely used for kind of S3, kind of opening files from S3 or Azure. So yeah, the load document API allows you to do that. So now I'm kind of jumping over to the questions tab. Already answered the InDesign file, so yes, we can open it. How's the license fee handled for PDFTron via Salesforce? Is it per user, per organization? So our Zoto App Exchange kind of product that can really be customized to the same extent as PDFTron SDK is per user per month fee. However, the sales team, if you're trying to kind of buy the PDFTron SDK solution for the Salesforce, you can reach out to the sales team and just explain a use case. And we can provide flexible licensing option just because sometimes not always per user per fee works for everyone. Let's say you have a smaller use case or a really large use case, sales team can actually help you optimize kind of how much you're paying and kind of given your situation as well. Okay, perfect. So it's kind of halfway through. We're halfway through kind of this webinar. So the next step is going to be kind of the more hands-on portion where we're going to take a look at how easy it is to get started with PDFTron SDK. So again, we're talking about this let's go back. We're talking about the high code solution. And don't be overwhelmed if you don't know JavaScript, if you don't know kind of the Salesforce development. Don't worry, I'm just going to walk you through all the steps. So I'm just going to kind of start on this kind of familiar screen that we all kind of seen, and I'm going to make it bigger here. So this is kind of my Salesforce dev org, and I'm running in developer mode. So again, the performance of the Salesforce instance is not the best because I'm in debugging mode. And then if I go over to kind of github.com/PDFTron, where you can find a lot of pre-built samples, pre-built functionality. The one that I want you to take a look at is Salesforce PDF app. It's something that we kind of pre-built. It's almost the same code base that powers our Zoto App Exchange. And we just made it much, much easier to get started. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. So first thing that you got to do, and don't worry, we're recording this webinar. The slides are going to be available after as well. So if you just look at my screen and just kind of follow along, as long as you're getting what I'm doing, you can kind of do it yourself later and referencing this webinar recording as well. So just go ahead and download the zip of the Salesforce PDF app. Once you download it, so I already pre-downloaded, didn't want to kill my download speed here, we can go ahead and unzip it. And then what I like to do is I go ahead and pop it open in VS Code. And let me just make sure I open up the right folder. So I'll just go say open and downloads and Salesforce PDF app main, open it up. It's the exact same one. So great. So in here, I'm just going to close the window editors. It's kind of all the code base and the files that are needed kind of for this project. And I actually have really handy Salesforce DX tools installed specifically for the VS Code. So Salesforce kind of provides a great way to develop on Salesforce using VS Code as a code editor. So within here, I just go over to the kind of the trial force, and instead I can actually connect it to the Dev Hub that you've seen me. So I have a developer org instance running that I got for free from Salesforce. You can kind of go ahead and get your own where you can kind of play around in the sandbox environment. And you just go ahead and you connect to it. So now I connected to the Dev Hub. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to push the app to the Dev Hub. And all I got to do is just right click on the force app /main/default. And I'm actually going to deploy the source to org. And, it's running. So it's kind of grabbing, the code, the package that we have made, kind of building it for the Salesforce and pushing it up to my Dev Hub that I just connected. And it takes, kind of few seconds to a minute to kind of send everything up. But, as far as the code side goes, that's it. Like there's not much more I got to do. So all I do is download the zip, I unzip it, I open it in VS Code, I connect it to the Dev Hub. And if you don't have Salesforce DX tools, you can kind of just Google Salesforce DX tools for the VS Code and install them. It's very simple. You can actually even just do it from the extensions button. After you have that done, you can kind of hook it up, and we're going to see it in a second after it finished pushing. While it's pushing, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at some of the questions. So it's just exactly, yeah. So like just like Rasmus is saying in the questions, right? Like sometimes that per user per month, it just doesn't really make sense, right? It could be like large number of users, but the proportion of those users actually accessing that specific functionality or kind of use case is very small. So then the kind of price per user per month could be very prohibiting, and that's why I recommend reaching out to kind of the sales team where they can kind of provide you with a little bit flexible pricing. So yeah, awesome. So it's still kind of pushing the Salesforce, kind of it's grabbing all the components, the packages, and kind of running them. And we can kind of see the output kind of here. So once it kind of finishes running, it's going to just print out that it was successful in pushing everything to the Salesforce. And you can actually, that's another good point, is that like let's say you actually do want to make some customizations, and I'm going to show you, like, for example, how to extract annotations or save annotations maybe in a different way, or open the files, not just from Salesforce, but from somewhere else. And then after that, you can re-push the same component. And once you're kind of pushing that component, it will do kind of a comparison tree of what do you have currently on your kind of Salesforce dev org, and then what you kind of made the editor edits here and which files, and it will just kind of pick up and just push those files as well. So it's kind of nice this way. Right now, we're just kind of grabbing and pushing up the whole app. And again, I'm streaming and I'm uploading speed as well. So the upload speed here is a little bit tricky. I'm just gonna refresh on some coffee here. Oh, nice. So it went ahead and kind of pushed everything and provides you with a list of things that it pushed. Okay, that's great. So now we can kind of go back to home Salesforce. And if you're expecting something to happen, nothing happened yet. And that's kind of the next step. Is like, let's think about now the use case that we're trying to solve. So we can grab and place the component onto any single screen in Salesforce. So if I really wanted to kind of have a document file viewers on my home screen, I can do so. But I think more common or relevant, it is to place it on account level or case level. So let's go into account, and I have my test account right here called Andre Test Account. Let's go in it. And on Andre Test Account, currently I have 3 kind of notes and attachments. And there's job offer letter, there's cover letter, and there's legal contract. So maybe I'm working in human resources and I have a candidate, let's call him Andre. We're trying to hire him. So we send him out a job offer letter or a cover letter, or maybe those are our templates that we got to edit. So, so this is kind of the default preview that Salesforce provides us, right? Where we can kind of bring up the file and take a look, right? But I can't select any text and I can't search on it because all it is just an image. So that's not very good. And I also have docx file, and actually the kind of the styling on this docx is pushed over. So really, the original docx, and we're going to see it, is more of a centric view. And then here's the kind of the cover letter as well. And again, can search on it, can select it. So I want to provide my users with a better way to kind of interact on the document. So I think what I want to do is I want to add a new tab right here and maybe call it like something like a document viewer or just documents or something like that. So the users can kind of go to it, and maybe we can even kind of hide this notes and attachments and instead kind of drag our users to go to documents. So I'm going to hit on this cog and I'm going to hit edit page. And it kind of switches me to kind of this page editor provided by the Salesforce, where we can kind of drag and drop any components onto it. And as you can see, web viewer is just going to be one of the components that you can kind of place onto your screen. So I'm going to click on this tab controller, and it kind of went ahead. So we have the page and the tabs, and I can add a tab. And remember how I wanted to call it document. So I'm going to say I want to call it custom, and I would just call it documents, something like that. Done. Looks pretty good to me. So now I have this tab called documents. I can switch over to it, and I can add my components. And as you can see that we actually have a couple different components, and we're not just concentrating like here's web viewer, but we're also kind of trying to build out other helpful components that might be of use to you as well. So as such, there's the file picker that lets you access kind of objects or the, objects of the files. There's kind of the side-by-side example where we can have kind of 2 viewers side-by-side. Maybe we want to do some comparison. There's just kind of pure web viewer. And then there's the kind of the web viewer container. So let's go ahead and kind of drop that. And it will actually can give us a preview of what it's going to look like. And perfect. So here, it has Salesforce PDF app, and it has, it's almost very similar to, if you haven't been to the PDFTron.com and checked out our demo, it's very similar to our demo. So we kind of based it out on some of the use cases that I have talked to you about on the slide. So kind of viewing, annotating, saving, searching, redacting, replacing, and we're even going to take a look at the video. So now this looks good to me. So I placed, kind of created a document tab, and then you can kind of place the PDF app. So can you register your own custom PDF view? So I believe that's possible. So you can kind of customize it, you can build it, and then you can push it. So a lot of our people, they build their own components, their own kind of apps, and they were able to kind of push them to the Salesforce App Exchange. And we went through, number of security reviews as well. And there's nothing kind of from the PDFTron side that can prevent you, from pushing to the Salesforce or even App Exchange. So now let's go ahead and hit the save button. So we went and saved that view, for every user inside of our organization. So now every time we're going to go to that specific account, we have that fresh new documents tab. And inside of it, we can kind of view the file. So by the default, it just kind of goes ahead and opens the file that I hard-coded by the URL. But instead, we can actually choose the different attachments. So here we can see that we can open docx, PDF. It doesn't really matter for us. So let's take a look first at the job offer letter docx. And what it does, it went ahead and kind of loads the file. And if you remember, the Salesforce preview was kind of shifted, right? It was like shifted off to like really close margin. So that's where like there's some kind of gaps in their like the preview that they offer. And, sometimes the formatting can be all garbled, where here, it's very crisp and clear, and as you can see now, there are some kind of, it's a template for replacement tags where your company logo, clearance date, and PDFTron can actually replace those values. But I want you to kind of show some of the other things that we can do. So it's not just kind of viewing. So if we do view, and you can actually customize like the default view that happens. So here, I don't have any annotation capability. So some users, you can kind of provide them with a read only. And yes, you can hide the download or the print button as well. So that's possible. And then your users have kind of multiple ways to navigate the document as well. So we kind of generate previews for every single page that they have available. They can also like expand this controller if there's multiple pages, and even zoom in on some of the pages as well, just to kind of see what's underneath them. And then I can also go in and hit annotate as well. And maybe I want to kind of highlight some of the information. So I highlighted this paragraph, and I want to kind of go ahead and place comments on it. And as you can see, when I highlight it, it did extract that text underneath, and the reading order, it provided us exact accurate text. And maybe, this is where I can have kind of the collaboration or a little bit of a back and forth with the candidate when negotiating specific contract wording. Like, what is your desired, number of hours you would like to work? And we can kind of post that question. And the way the annotations are stored, or kind of all this conversation, it can be saved together inside of kind of the PDF document. Or you can extract it separately, and we store it in the same kind of format as Adobe does, or PDF specification kind of says you should. It's XML-based format, so it can easily be extracted as a string and stored inside of Salesforce record. And you can combine it together to power some of the review and approval processes by clicking kind of the different states on the specific comment annotation that's made. And you can say, okay, this task is completed. This task is accepted. This is doesn't have any status to it. And there's kind of full audit or history on the specific document that you can kind of go back to. And again, there's kind of full customizations. You can have different colors for different users. They can choose their own colors. They can place comments. They can even place the callouts as well. Those are really popular if you want to kind of bring the user to the specific place in the document, and kind of go ahead and place the free text inside of it. And then what we can do on that free text, we can kind of, again, customize and change the colors, of the text inside of the stroke fill. You can even kind of have your own custom colors and select anything. Okay, so that's kind of one thing that I wanted to show you on this one. Of course, we can kind of toggle between, one more thing. So here, I kind of made some highlights and free text annotations. I can go ahead and save that. And what that does, it will actually kind of merge the annotations together with the document. still making them editable. So next time I come back to that document, it's going to be reflected that we have those annotations, and we can kind of save the annotations into a record associated with that account, kind of that annotation data, or we can kind of put it together with a PDF. So maybe we can take a look at the legal contract. And here, let's think of more of a use case. So let's say we're trying to release this document to the public. So we can actually kind of search for specific wording. And as you can see, we're combining Salesforce components or building blocks like this kind of icon search. And then we find that there's an appearance of ABC widgets. There's only kind of, and we can go ahead and redact it. And once I redact it, there's, it's completely blown away. So there's no kind of reverse engineering. And I can also manually, I can go in and select redact tool, and I can kind of do some of the redacting myself. So I can say, maybe we should remove this, maybe we should remove the address. And then maybe it should go to kind of a bit of a review and approval process where, okay, should this be removed, right? So somebody, instead of kind of reading through the document or trying to find all the instances of that, you can say, yeah, this is good, go ahead and blow it away. And once we're kind of ready to blow it away, we can just kind of say apply redaction, or we can apply all of the redaction at once. And once this redacted, there's no coming back from it as well. So this is great for kind of any, FOIPA requests, or again, like in pharma, life sciences, we can kind of remove any sensitive information. In HR, we can take out any bias from hiring as well. So again, kind of viewing, annotating, searching, redacting, and we kind of built out all those use cases. So the most common use cases, you already have a sample that does exactly what you want to do, and you can kind of tweak it, customize it, hide shows and functionality, and the way you go. And then one other one too is like the video. Let's say there's any kind of multimedia component as well. You can kind of embed a video player directly into the Salesforce where we can play the video, and we can actually place our annotations like the same way we've been doing on kind of 2D based documents. We can do same thing, and again, store the conversation around the document. So this is great for kind of education content, or before we release some kind of advertisement to the public, or kind of we have some marketing campaign, we can kind of pause it and maybe say, hey, this text right here, can we bump it up? And I will just kind of draw some arrows. And I see that this text actually appears on kind of multiple frames. So I can kind of start from this one. So kind of this text right here, and place some annotations. And then I can actually extend that to multiple frames as well. And then I can place any comments. What do I mean by that? Shift text on top and hit save. And again, all the editing, all the processing, all the rendering, all the conversion that we do, we do it directly in the Salesforce. So it doesn't call out to third-party servers. It just kind of stays within Salesforce platform, ensuring that you're compliant with kind of whatever your jurisdiction is, whatever kind of your HIPAA compliance. There's nothing kind of preventing from PDFTron side for you to create HIPAA compliant applications. Okay, so some of the questions: do you support support data to be filled from a SQL database? So yeah, of course. So we support SQL query. So kind of SQL is very similar to SQL, but just kind of Salesforce object query language. We also support SQL database, but again, we provide you the freedom. So we have more of a development product where you can kind of connect whatever data source that you have. And like specifically around the template generation and replacement, we use a JSON format. So you can just kind of pass us data in JSON format of saying like, this is the field, this is what I want to replace, and we can replace it. Or for Salesforce, we're actually going to expand on Salesforce PDF app and actually provide you with a bit of a UI using kind of Salesforce native, where you can have the drop downs for the data selection. And if you come out for the next webinar, I think that's what I want to highlight for the next webinar as well. And I mentioned that we do have a blog post on the PDFTron.com that I wrote about kind of the automating document generation in Salesforce. So you can kind of check out, very interesting read here as well. Okay, so let's we've taken a look how easy it is to kind of go ahead and plop the PDFTron component. I do want to address one of the questions that been made around customization as well as the annotation export. So why don't we head back over to the Salesforce PDF app main, and then we can take a look at PDFTron Web Viewer instance. And as you can see here, this piece of code right here, you can follow our documentation online. So if you head on over to PDFTron documentation, you can read about it, what each one of those properties means. And yeah, so for example, here we're enabling the file picker, enabling the redaction capability, enabling measurements, especially if we're working AEC, we'll have some floor plans, blueprints, we've got to measure them. We can do so as well. And then inside of the config.apex.js, we can actually provide additional customizations that we can do on the document, and we can catch some of the events. So here, we have a function for adding a save button. So this is the save button that actually does the saving of the annotation data. So let's take a look what the function does. So we're just going ahead and setting the header items. And we're adding that save button, and this is the save button icon. So it's this button right here, right? So PDFTron SDK allows us to do that, and on the on click, it will actually go ahead and execute that function. We can go to definition, and we can see that here we're checking if we have a document that's loaded. That's good, and then we get the XFDF string. And then after that, we're combining that XFDF string, so that contains the annotation data, together with the document. And then that data right here, we're creating a base 64, and then we're updating that base 64 copy in the Salesforce. Again, maybe in your specific solution, just storing that string and then just calling doc viewer get annotation method import annotations is going to be enough. And that's actually a better practice, in my opinion, where you can decouple the form data, or you can decouple the annotation data separately from the document. This use case, we're showing you more complex, where we're merging it together with the document. And yeah, so a couple of the other things. So for example, here's the function for replacing content. And then here's the some of the listeners, right? So we have the viewer loaded, and when the viewer loads, we're adding the save button. But there's a number of other events that are exposed and available to you on instance doc viewer, and let's actually pop that open and see where you can find that information. So as I said, go into documentation, go into web, and you can read through, and there's different web viewer events. There's a whole life cycle, right? When the viewer element is ready, document loading is starting, each page is being loaded, or the annotations are being loaded. Then there's events for every time the user adds or modifies or deletes annotations, allowing you to create a powerful workflow. Let's say somebody places a highlight or a comment or whatever, you can trigger for example, chatter updates or something to bubble up, hey, on this account, somebody said this or commented that. So the possibilities are really endless. And then if you want to see all of the events, for example, under document viewer, you can scroll to the bottom where we list out all the different events available. So here's some of the events. So active search result change, annotations loaded, before document loaded, click, double click, display mode, document loaded, key down, key up, layout change, mouse leave. You can hook in and track all of those and set up your own analytics around that. And all you that configuration, you're just going to be doing the config_apex.js. You can add window that event listener, whatever event you're trying to do, and then you can execute your own function inside of it. You support direct document editing after it has been generated. That is something that coming soon to the PDFTron. I can't wait to show you in the next product update webinar that's going to be coming. Stay tuned on our blog. It's really exciting. I have seen the preview of the functionality coming. And again, yeah, we'll just enable you to interact and edit the document directly on Salesforce or wherever you're deploying your application. without need of any external dependencies. So can't wait to take the wraps of that one. All right, and just looking at the clock right now, we have about 5 minutes remaining. It's been great hours spending time with you and just kind of walking you through what PDFTron has to offer. I really appreciate all of you coming out. Let me know if there's any kind of last minute questions. Go ahead and check out the different polls. I put up some questions ahead of the time here. You can actually submit the vote. This kind of tells me a little bit more, about you and how what do you do today on the Salesforce platform. And yeah, thanks so much for coming out. If there's any last minute questions or chats, just go ahead and insert them and I'll try to answer them. And I'll hang out here for the next 5 minutes. All right, so a quick question came in, how to enable PDFTron viewer inside of Salesforce. So yeah, again, recording is available, so you can kind of rewatch it. If you kind of go back halfway through, this is where we kind of enable, right? So you can kind of just go ahead and customize it and set the default to view, and then kind of add a document tab, or maybe you can even just grab this component right here. So you can grab the WV instance, and you can drop it kind of directly into the screen as well, and just connect it together with the, I believe this is called the file attachment component. So you can kind of combine both, where the user can select which file attachment they want to view and then go ahead and view it. So again, yeah, sky's the limit when it comes to customizations. And let's say, like you tried and you watched the recording and something is not working for you, exact same way as you do, we're here to help, right? So you're not alone, there's no kind of silly questions, there's no mistakes. You just go ahead and you can actually reach out to our support. So again, you can go under support resources, and if you go under tech support, or if you're an existing customer, or free trial tech support, if you're kind of just trying out the solution for the first time, and a team of our solution engineers can help you out, kind of set up your solution, kind of walk you through anything, answer anything. So yeah, so if I hit the tech support, I can just insert kind of my email describe. So you just tell us the problem you're having and we'll be best to help you. Yeah, and yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. We also have a community forum as well. So if you feel like that's a question that's kind of very common to everybody, you can actually just post the question in the community.pdftron.com and kind of reserve the support more for kind of sensitive, if you're trying to exchange some files. We have a secure kind of file collaboration or upload system as well. So perfect. So for question for Ken, how to enable PDFTron viewer inside of SharePoint. Again, we have on our website kind of a integration guide as well. You can just go here, documentation/integration SharePoint, and kind of all the steps here. And if you do have any questions, again, community.pdftron.com, or just reach out to our support team as well. Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure, and I hope you have all great the rest of your week, your day, and a weekend. Thanks so much.